Hello and welcome to the show. Today we welcome one of the ultimate movers and shakers, special guest Michael Uslan, or as he might prefer, Batman's Batman, which is the title of his new book. Michael Uslan is the originator and executive producer of the Batman movie franchise, spanning from 1989's Batman to 2022's The Batman, including The Joker, The Dark Knight trilogy, and many, many others. His work has been awarded Oscars, Emmys, People's Choice Awards, and Annie Awards. He is also the author of The Boy Who Loved Batman, which is being developed into a Broadway play by the Nederlander organization. Michael is an alum of IU, from which he received his BA, MS, and JD. He was the first instructor to teach an accredited course on comic book folklore at any university and continues to teach as a professor of practice right here at the Media School at Indiana University. In his class, which I've had the privilege to take as a student, Michael emphasizes experiential learning through simulations of real corporate studio environment and stresses the importance of knowledge that you'll never find in a textbook. In that same vein, Michael is also a master storyteller, and I have a feeling that that's also a theme of his new book, Batman's Batman, which we'll talk to him about today. Michael Uslan, so great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here. Always happy to be back doing whatever I can with Indiana University.
Well, you know, the title of this show is Movers and Shakers. And when I think of the term movers and shakers, you know, who better epitomizes it than Michael Uslan, Batman's Batman. Just for those viewers who aren't familiar with who you are and how you got from Bloomington to Hollywood, maybe would you like to give us a brief rundown of what you do and how you came to do it?
Yeah, happy to do that. I'm a blue-collar kid from New Jersey. My older brother, Paul, went to IU 4 years before I did. I got a chance to visit him at school and fall in love with his campus, which was just so incredibly beautiful. When I was a senior in high school, I won a Scholastic Magazine Creative Writing Contest, and I went to a reception in New York with the judges, and they said, "Where have you been accepted to school?" And I gave them the 5 schools. And they said, well, if you're interested in writing, whether it's creative writing or journalism, you're going to want to go to Indiana. The clincher was way back then, and I understand they plugged this hole since then. If I came to IU, I did not have to take math. And that was nirvana for me. That was it. So in my junior year, and this was the early 1970s, the College of Arts and Sciences had started an experimental curriculum department. The concept being, if you had an idea for a college course that had never been taught before, you then could get a department on campus to sponsor you and then appear before a panel of deans and professors to pitch your course. If they accepted it, you could then actually teach the course for 3 hours of credit, even though you're an undergraduate. I was a junior at that time. So I said, well, the world has never seen a college course on comic books. So I saw it as an opportunity to get my foot in the door. I wrote up a syllabus that comic books were a legitimate American art form, as indigenous to this country as jazz, that comic books sociologically have reflected a changing American culture since they've been published every week since 1934. And it's like a mirror of our society. Our mores, our slang, our fashion, our biases, our prejudices, you can find them all in the comics over the years. And lastly, that comic book superheroes were our contemporary folklore. It's our modern day mythology, and the ancient gods of Greece, Rome, and Egypt all still exist, except they wear spandex and capes. I then went to Professor Henry Galassi at the folklore department, pitched him on this, and he said, Michael, you're absolutely right. He said, it is just the same plots, motifs, and conventional stock characters of folklore. It doesn't matter if we call them King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, or the Avengers, or the Justice League. It's all still the same stories. Brave warriors battling the demons and dragons of their day with stories of hope and redemption. He said, I'll back you. So armed with that, I went in to the pitch. And as I'm walking in the door, the dean said to me, oh, so you're the fellow who wants to teach a course on funny books at my university. And I knew it was going to be an uphill climb from there. He let me speak for about 2 minutes and then cut me off. And he said, Mr. Uslan, he said, please stop. He goes, come on. I read comic books when I was a little boy. I read every issue of Superman I could, but all comic books are cheap entertainment for little children. And I reject your theory. That was a life-changing moment for me, because as I already learned from my years at IU, you never have to accept no for an answer at IU. There's always someone else you can talk to, a different advisor, a professor, or come at things with a different angle. So I just said, Dean, before I go, may I just ask you 2 questions? He said, ask me anything you want. I said, are you familiar with the story of Moses? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, yeah, so? I said, so very, very briefly, could you just summarize the story of Moses for me? He said, Mr. Uslan, I don't know what game you're playing here, but I'll play this with you. He said the Hebrew people were being persecuted. Their firstborn were being slain. A Hebrew couple placed their infant son in a little wicker basket, sent him down the River Nile, where he's discovered by an Egyptian family who raised him as their own son. When he grows up and learns of his true heritage, he becomes a great hero to his people. But I said, stop. Dean, that was great. Thank you. You said before you read Superman comics when you were a kid. By any chance, do you remember the origin of Superman? He said, of course, the planet Krypton was about to blow up. A scientist and his wife placed their infant son in a little rocket ship and send him to Earth. There he's discovered by the Kents, who raise him as their own son. When he grows up and then he stops, stares at me for what I will swear to you was an eternity, and then says, your course is accredited. I am now the world's first college professor of comic books. And that was IU. They then asked me to teach it through correspondence because they got such a great response. And the media flocked in and were covering this. It became a huge media event. I never taught one class that wasn't filled with television cameras and reporters from NBC and CBS. I mean, you name it, they were there. United Press International had gone out with a huge article that was picked up by virtually every newspaper in North America, a bunch in Europe. My phone started ringing off the hook. I was invited on radio and TV talk shows. And that led to the day about 2 or so weeks into it when I got 2 back-to-back phone calls that changed my life for the next time. First one was from Stan Lee from Marvel Comics in New York City. And Stan said, Mike, I'm watching you on TV. I'm reading about you in newspapers. What you're doing is great for the whole comic book industry. How can I help you? And 2 hours later, it was the vice president of DC Comics in New York who said they were listening to me on a radio talk show and reading about me in magazines. They said, you're a very innovative young man. We would like to fly you to New York City and discuss ways we could work together. And that led me to a job at DC Comics, geek dream come true, which then led me to writing Batman comics, detective comics, while I was still a student at IU. And that was a dream I had had since I was 8 years old that came true. And so you see that it's great to dream big, but you can't simply jump the Grand Canyon. You got to look for all the little openings and doors a crack that you can get your foot into. You got to knock on doors till your knuckles bleed, and step by step, keep pushing forward and pushing forward, hopefully without getting frustrated, until you can get to where you want to go. And what I've learned in life is that it's a series of choices, and all of our choices have consequences. And I'm one of those guys that was driven by passion. I loved my comics and my superheroes and Batman. And I was willing to persevere and make that commitment. But more importantly, I was willing to get up off the damn couch and be proactive and try to make things happen instead of expecting the world to come to me, or the feeling that the world owed me anything. So that's what got me to DC. That's what got me to Batman. And then I went to law school at IU, graduated law school, and got a job in the entertainment industry. My first job right out of school was as a motion picture production attorney for United Artists, which was a major studio at the time. And that's where I got my training. That's where I learned how you produce and finance films. I was able to network like mad. And when I felt I had the credentials, I went back to DC Comics and said, I want to buy the rights to Batman. I want to make dark and serious Batman movies and show the whole world he's not simply the pow zap wham pot-bellied funny guy from TV. And on October 3rd, 1979, my partner, Ben Melniker, who was my dad's age, and I raised some money privately. We bought the rights to Batman. I quit my job and went out to Hollywood with Batman in my back pocket. So people say today, it's inconceivable. How does a kid in his 20s buy the rights to Batman? How could that possibly be? And the true answer is that I was the only one on the planet Earth who showed up. And that was how I got the rights to Batman.
Incredible. You say that life is a series of choices, and given the trajectory of your career, it sounds like you've made a lot of the right choices. Is there would you say that that's true?
Well, let me put it this way. I thought that a career in movies and television and animation was going to be a war. And every day I would go to battle and I would fight for my projects. And I was wrong. It wasn't. What it is a siege. You wouldn't believe how frustrating it can be and how so much time gets eaten up. And we have this thing called development hell with projects where it takes sometimes years and years. Our first Batman movie took 10 years before we were able to get it on the screen. Our movie Constantine with Keanu Reeves took 10 years. National Treasure took 10 years. As I say, I've run out of 10 years. Got to find a way to speed this whole thing up. But it's an arduous, difficult, challenging prospect, and you have to be prepared for that. So you try to make the most informed choices you can make. You've got to be a decision maker, and if you don't know the answer, it's important to network and find people around who you can rely on, who you can call on, who may be able to help you out and provide some direction or answers. Mentoring is critically important in this business, as is networking. And my new book, published by IU Press, is the sequel to my memoir, The Boy Who Loved Batman. The second memoir now is called Batman's Batman. It just came out last month, the same day we opened our new Batman movie, The Batman. And it's available now. Stan Lee always said, Michael, make sure you get the plugs in. So Stan, I'm listening. It's available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and through IU Press, Red Lightning, as are the audiobooks. I narrated the audiobook versions of each of my memoirs, and I'm happy to report to you now that they are being turned into a Broadway play by the Nederlander organization of Broadway, one of the powerhouses of Broadway, and it's being fast-tracked, and I couldn't be more excited to see The Boy Who Loved Batman and Batman's Batman converted into a play. It's incredible. It's an incredible experience.
Well, that's exciting for Batman fans everywhere, I'm sure. But turning again to your book, why did you decide to write another memoir?
It was COVID. And I said, okay, the whole industry is sitting like this going, oh my God, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. And watching streaming for the next 2 years. I saw it differently. I said, okay, we have to look at this as an opportunity. What do we do with our time? How do we prepare for when this is over? And originally I thought maybe 6 months. I didn't know it was going to be like 2 years. How do we prepare for the new normal? Because clearly normal will not be returning to Hollywood and to the entertainment industry. And it absolutely has not, by the way. The industry is changing at a revolutionary pace virtually every single day. So during that time, I wrote the play, I wrote my sequel book, and I wrote the motion picture feature screenplay version of The Boy Who Loved Batman, because that's what we are going to do next once the Broadway play is up and running. So I really made use of those 2 years. They were very productive. And as the pandemic was ending, we were able to really make progress and push things forward. And that was basically the strategy of it all. The reason I wrote the second book, Batman's Batman, is because the first book dealt with how a blue-collar comic book geek from New Jersey, buys the rights to Batman, spends 10 years trying to get it made when every studio, every company turns me down and says it's the worst idea we ever heard. And what that human endurance contest was like for those 10 years, and then the incredible success we met with once we got it up and running, starting with Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, and Tim Burton, and continuing to this very day to Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson, and Zoe Kravitz, and Paul Dano, and Colin Farrell. It's just been pretty miraculous. So the second book is about my adventures and misadventures in Hollywood. It's about all the other projects. It's about the stuff that was very successful. It's about all the projects that died on the vine at the last possible second in the most frustrating way. And it just goes to show you, over my career now, 45 years, I'm probably 6 out of every 10 projects I've mounted have died. Now, that is frustrating and upsetting in the trenches. But then I have friends said to me, are you kidding? In baseball, you would be one of the greatest superstars of all time, batting 400. So everything is perspective. But my book goes into the 13 P's of producing, how you produce, what it's all about, and how you go about the whole process. And it's a fun book. It's entertaining. There's a lot of fun stories in it. There's about 100 plus anecdotes in there. And I had a great time reminiscing and writing about it.
It sounds like a really fun read, and certainly not the sort of thing you might get in a standard, film school textbook. Could you give us maybe just a little taste of one of those anecdotes about producing?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you where the title Batman's Batman comes from. So we were out there pitching a dark and serious Batman movie in 1979. Every studio turned me down and said I was crazy. We were coming up to the very last studio, and we had spent a lot of money to get the rights to do this. This seemed to me to be my last great hope. And we went into this meeting, and the head of production was a dapper, silver-haired guy, had been in the industry for decades, was an old compadre of my partner Ben's. Ben had started at MGM in 1939 to set the scene and give you an idea. And I pitched my heart out for my dark and serious Batman. And when I'm done, he looks at me and he goes, Michael, for God's sake, Batman will never be successful as a movie because our movie, Annie, hasn't done well. I said, are you talking about the little redheaded girl from Broadway who sings the song Tomorrow? He says, yeah. I go, well, what does that have to do with Batman? He said, oh, come on, Michael. They're both out of the funny pages. That was my rejection from Columbia. With that, he turned to Ben. He said, Ben, look, you and I go back a long way. If you boys really want to make a Batman movie, I'll consider it. But it's got to be that funny pot-bellied, pow-zap, wham Batman from TV that audiences will remember and love.
Adam West,
yeah. I looked at him, I said, no. And with that, he pulled his chair right in front of me and got my face and said, son, better to have a movie made than no movie at all. And I looked at him and I said, no. That was it. That was our final rejection from the studios. Ben and I are sitting on a bench on the studio lot after that meeting. And I am despondent, just despondent. And Ben looked at me and he said, Michael, it's kind of ironic that the last no we received came from you. He said, you know what that makes you? I said, yeah, Ben, an idiot. He says, no. He says, you're Batman's Batman. I said, Batman's Batman? What are you talking about? He said, Michael, you just passed up a load of money. You just passed up an opportunity to produce your first movie because you were committed to this vision of Batman that you say honors the creators, Bill Finger and Bob Kane, and is the true way to present Batman as a creature of the night who stalks these deeply demented villains. And you have given up everything so that Batman would not return to the campy joke where people laugh at him. He says, Michael, you're Batman's defender. You are Batman's protector. You are Batman's Batman. And that's where the title of the book comes from.
That's a wonderful story. Um, so who is your audience for this book? Is it film students? Is it Batman lovers? Is it, you know, the students in your class? Who are
This
you
is
hoping
for
to?
anybody and everybody who has ever dreamed, for anybody or everybody who has ever discovered a passion in life or is in the process of exploring to discover their passion in life. It's about what it takes to dream big and then get up off the couch, be proactive, knock on doors till your knuckles bleed. I mean, my God, the Batman movie franchise is built on my bloody knuckles. It is a motivational book. It's a book that I hope will inspire young people to follow their passions and follow their dreams and make it happen, and don't wait for other people to make it happen. It's for film students and professionals who want to truly understand what producing involves. It's broken up into 13 chapters, each beginning with the letter P, the 13 Ps of producing. And it is anecdotal in the sense that the movie A Christmas Story was anecdotal. There are stories of my childhood in New Jersey. There are stories of my college years at Indiana, and how things that happened to you when you were a kid and are growing up, and relationships you've had later really pay off for you as an adult, and they make you who you are, and they give you a reserve to draw upon, a support system, a path, an ideology, a sense of ethics or morality, and how everything is really tied together cosmically, at the end of the day. So, hopefully it can be enjoyed by everyone out there, in addition to just hardcore film and media students.
Mhm.
And the Broadway play is out to reflect that.
Mhm. It sounds like it's broad enough in its themes that it could appeal to a lot of different interests.
I think so.
People.
It
Yeah.
makes its point that there are moments of tragedy and harsh seriousness. There's also a lot of moments of laughs and crazy stuff that went on in Hollywood. I mean, I've had to deal with some of the greatest egomaniacs, screamers, um, entitled people who have never heard the word no before. So that there's a reason the book is entitled Batman's Batman in Hollywood, Land of Bilk and Money, because often that's what it becomes. Sometimes when you're lucky, it can be that creative land of milk and honey, but often it can be bilk and money. And the book covers both sides of that.
Mm. Well, I mean, honestly, this sounds like a really great book. Just starting to wrap up here. You've mentioned the Broadway play a couple times. That's really exciting. What else is on the horizon for you?
There's lots of great things going on right now. We're in the midst of a huge success with the Batman movie. There's a lot of great movies and streaming series and animation coming up. We're working on a couple of new streaming series. It's a good time, and family's doing great. Who can ask for anything more?
Who can ask for anything more, as the song goes? Michael, do you have any last comments for us over here in Bloomington? Us filmmakers, looking to get into the business.
Yeah, I do. Every year I go back and I teach 2 intensive courses every year. One is the business of producing motion pictures. The other is live from Hollywood, where I have 30 of my friends do Zoom calls with my class, and it covers every aspect of the movie, TV, streaming, animation business, every aspect. In the past, I've had Mark Hamill from Star Wars, the voice of the Joker. He's done a couple of sessions on acting with my classes. I've had Kevin Conroy, the definitive voice of Batman from all the Batman animation. I had the director of Disney's animated film Mulan. I've had the president of 20th Century Fox and Paramount speaking to my kids. It's if my students graduated and moved to LA and got a job in Hollywood in the business, and worked in it for 5 years, they still would not have access to these people. So it's a chance to bring this sort of experiential learning to Bloomington. And it's something when I was here we did not have. So I'm very, very happy that I have the opportunity to pay it back and pay it forward.
Well, as a former student in one of your classes, I can definitely vouch that it's a wonderful experience, and any media school student should certainly check it out. Michael Uslan, thank you so much for your time today. We really
So
appreciate
happy
it.
to be here. This was a lot of fun, and anytime,
Excellent.
when the bell rings for Indiana, I answer the call.
Thank you so much, Michael, and best of luck with everything that you're doing. We'll be following it.
Thanks. Take care.
You too. Bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Michael. He's certainly a fascinating guy, and there's always a million different things on his plate. Thanks so much for watching. We will be back soon with another episode and more stimulating conversation.